Grilling speaks to all of us. Live fire grilling has been around as long as man has been cooking food. But how does grilling fit into the techniques we've learned already? Well, grilling is a dry heat cooking technique without fat. If you think of broiling, it's in the same family of cooking techniques, but rather than having heat from below, you have heat from above. So, dry heat cooking without fat. It's also a very high heat cooking technique, and for that reason you can expect a lot of caramelization or Maillard reaction. You get a lot of browning, and with browning comes lots of flavor, meaty flavors and even roasted flavors. Now, there's a couple of things that you need to concern yourself with. Today, we're going to be grilling indoors. Likely, you will be grilling outdoors. So, I will try and share a few tips that you can take with you when your food goes to the backyard and you turn the gas grill on. Today, we're going to be grilling a lot of different things. I've got a beautiful ribeye steak. I've got some nice lamb chops, a couple of pieces of fish, a whole selection of vegetables, and then finally, we're going to be grilling some fruit for dessert. Why don't we get started? I'm going to begin with some vegetables, and I've got them all laid out here. I have a zucchini that I'm going to cut in half, and when I grill vegetables, I think it's a nice idea to leave them in big pieces so that you don't have to handle so many different things while they cook. I like to take a zucchini and score the inside. This helps it cook a little bit more quickly and more evenly. And we are going to make a marinade to go on all of these vegetables. A fairly simple marinade. I'll show you quickly what it is. Nothing more than olive oil, a little bit of chopped garlic, a squeeze of lemon juice, and then we'll season it with salt and pepper. Good enough. Now take a look at what we've got here. I've got some zucchini and some summer squash that we'll be cooking. As a high moisture vegetable, it will cook very, very quickly. I've got some very thin asparagus, which will also cook quickly. Tomatoes you can even eat raw, so all three of these are naturally tender foodstuffs, and I think that's an appropriate quality for a high heat cooking technique. Over here I have potatoes, and potatoes are a little bit tougher. So, if I put them onto a grill raw, I can almost guarantee you they would burn on the outside long before they were tender. If you want to make a potato tender, you can partially cook it ahead of time. As I have here, I just boiled it in salted water, let it cool, and then I cut it in half. And when I put this onto the grill, by the time it's brown, it will be hot all the way through. But in terms of tenderness, it's almost there already. I'm going to take this marinade and just spoon it over these various vegetables. If you were grilling outdoors, I'd be a little bit careful about too much marinade because extra fat can drip off of your vegetables, and when it hits the coals below, it can flare up and you can have a problem with fire. Here, it's less of an issue, certainly. I've got a grill that's already warm, and I have it over a medium-low heat. There's a lot of sugar in vegetables, and it will brown pretty quickly. If you were building a fire outdoors, you might think about a medium-low heat. And here's how I evaluate heat outside where there's no knobs to tell you how hot something is. If you have a fire and you put your hand over it, if you can only keep your hand there for about 3 seconds, I would call that a hot fire. If you feel compelled to remove your hand within 3 seconds, think of that as a hot fire. That may be great for lamb chops, but it's probably too hot for vegetables with some sugar to them. If you can take your hand and keep it there 3 to 5 seconds, I would say then you have a medium fire. And finally, if you can keep it there for longer than 5 seconds, you've got a low fire. So that will serve you in good stead outside. Here, I've got it set at medium-low, and I'll take my cue from how it looks when I put it on the grill. It's important, whether you're inside or out, that the grill should be preheated and that the grill should be clean. So outdoors, you light your fire, you turn on the gas grill, and you let it heat up. And then if you have a grill brush, you brush it clean, and then wipe it clean with a towel dampened with a little bit of oil. These, obviously, I can wash inside, but I'm still going to wipe a little bit of oil on there. And if there's any residual dirt, then this will pick it up. Seems to be pretty clean. So let's go ahead and put these vegetables on the grill. You can see the bars of the grill, just the same way you can on your grill outside. I want to place my vegetables so that they cross those bars. That will give me really nice grill marks on these vegetables, and that's exactly what I want. Some people describe this rule or guideline as the 10 and 2 guideline, where you begin with your food pointing up to 10 o'clock, and later on, if you want cross-hatched marks, you turn to 2 o'clock. The potatoes are going to go on as well. And you can see I'm pointing these up towards 2 o'clock. We'll spread the asparagus out. And then finally some tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and season this just with a little bit more salt. Certainly there was some salt in the marinade, but a little bit more I think is okay. If you were outdoors and you put this on your grill and it immediately burst into flame when the oil hit below, you either have too hot a fire or too much oil. In here, what I'm looking for is sort of a relaxed little sizzle, and I'm confident that I have it. I'm going to turn this up just a hair, and we'll let these cook. It's not so important with vegetables, but with meat especially, you put your food onto the grill and then you let it sit, because if you try and move it too quickly, you may discover that it is stuck. With vegetables like this, less of a problem. While those vegetables are cooking, let's talk about some flavor strategies. Once the vegetables come off, they taste great at room temperature. You can do them ahead, and I would even encourage you to do them ahead. But how do you season them beyond just the marinade that we had here? Well, here's 3 separate options. This one is a little salad that's made from curly parsley, lemon juice, olive oil, garlic, and Parmesan cheese. Think of it just like a salad with a really assertive vinaigrette that has cheese, garlic, and lots of lemon juice. This salad holds very, very nicely for about a half an hour. The curly parsley really doesn't wilt away, and it will lend a lot of delicious flavor to a salad like, or to vegetables like that. Here is what it might look like if you were in Greece and grilling vegetables. Let's take and make a vinaigrette with olive oil and lemon, salt and pepper. Put plenty of dill in there, and then add a little bit of feta cheese. And sprinkle that over your grilled vegetables, and I think you'd have another great, great option. Finally, if you are grilling in North Africa, in Tunisia, they have a wonderful vinaigrette, or they might call it a citronette, called charmoula. And charmoula is olive oil and lemon juice, plenty of garlic, parsley and cilantro, and then they put aromatic spices. They put cumin, they put paprika, and likely a little bit of cayenne. And they use this charmoula as a marinade for vegetables, as a dressing for salad. It goes on meats, vegetables, fish, you name it. Very, very versatile. So you could make up this charmoula and then just drizzle this over your vegetables. I think this is the one that I'm going to use today. Let's see how our vegetables are doing. So we're starting to get a little color. I'm going to turn it up just slightly, and I'm going to turn these vegetables 90 degrees so we get some nice cross-hatched marks. I'm going to roll the asparagus. The potatoes have some marks. I'm going to turn those 90 degrees. And you can see while they had stuck a little bit earlier, they're not stuck now. They've freed themselves. And the tomatoes I'm going to move to another surface. Okay. Here's what this parsley salad would look like. I take the parsley and pull it into little tufts. I'm going to add garlic and Parmesan cheese. Season it with salt and olive oil. And because parsley is so full flavored, you need a really powerful vinaigrette. So plenty of lemon juice. We'll just toss this together, and this later on will be sprinkled over the vegetables when we're ready to eat them. Perfect. Now, your challenge when you're grilling vegetables like this is to regulate the heat so that you get the browning you want by the time the vegetable is tender all the way through. And these vegetables are pretty small. Even with a gentle heat, we're getting browning pretty quickly. And I'm thinking we're just about at the point where this asparagus, which is so small, can come off the grill. We'll give the zucchini a little bit of time on the second side so that it can cook from behind. Let's see how these potatoes are doing. Nice cross hatch. I'll turn those over as well. Remember, these were cooked earlier, and so they just have to warm up. All right, take a look. These vegetables are tender. They've got beautiful markings, and they're ready to come off the grill. Potatoes likewise. And I love the idea of these grilled tomatoes, especially with lamb chops, which we're going to make next. Now, remember the salad that I made earlier. It's a simple thing to take this salad and just sprinkle it over the vegetables. And I think just a little more salt and pepper. And those can sit very, very happily aside while you busy yourself with the rest of your meal. So what is the rest of our meal? Well, I've got two beautiful selections of meat here. I've got a really thick steak, This is a ribeye steak, what some people call a cowboy steak. It comes from the rib of the animal, but the bone has been removed. This has a good deal of fat. It's got the kernel fat right here, and then the fat cap on the outside. If I were grilling outdoors, I might trim that back a little bit, because as that fat melts and drips down, it can flare up. And it can be a little disconcerting. But if you have a fire on a grill, it's an easy thing to simply take the food from where it's on fire and move it to another part of the grill and let this burn out. You certainly have the option of taking it off the grill as well. This won't be an issue for us in here because we don't have any live flame. I've also got some lamb chops here, and I cut them pretty thick. So these are double chops. And here's what we're going to do. I made a quick little marinade, and it had these ingredients right here. If you take a look, it had rosemary, bay, parsley, garlic, thyme, and then just a few peppercorns. I took all those things in tandem and put them into the blender and just pureed them. And this marinade is going to go onto our lamb chops. I might make that marinade when I get home from the butcher and just put the lamb chops right in there, and they can sit very happily in the marinade for 5 or 6 hours in the refrigerator without too much difficulty. Let me just turn those over once or twice. Now, I also have this cowboy steak, and I'm going to take it and put it up here. I could marinate this as well, and I could use the same marinade if I liked, but a nice piece of meat like this, I think, would be appropriate simply to put a little bit of oil on it and turn it over once or twice in that oil. And the oil is just so that it doesn't stick to the grill. And then I'm going to season it simply with salt and pepper. And I would not be shy. Season it both sides. Flip it over one time. Season it again on the second side. And our meat is ready to go. So here is another grill. I've got it hot. I'm going to make one end hotter than the other. I'm going to turn this up high, and down here I will cook my steak more slowly because it's a thicker, heavier piece of meat, and up here I will cook my lamb chops more quickly. This idea of heat zones is a really valuable one, where you have something that's hot that allows you to sear, and then when the searing has taken place, then you move your food to a cooler part of the grill so that you continue to cook. If you were outside and you had a charcoal grill, you might rake more coals to one side and leave fewer coals on the other. The same rules apply. You need your mise en place in place. So I need a clean plate to put the meat on when it comes from the grill. I need to brush the grill clean. It should be preheated. Oil the bars quickly. And we are ready to go. I'm going to put this big, thick steak on first. 10 and 2. It's satisfying to hear that sizzle. And then these lamb chops are going on as well. Now, it's important that we evaluate what's going on here. I see a lot of activity up here, a lot of smoke coming off of this grill, which tells me that there's a high heat. And within reason, I think that's important for a small cut of meat like a lamb chop. But you can get in here and just have a quick look-see how it's browning. If it's browning too quickly, by all means, you can turn the fire down or move it to a cooler part of the grill. I turned it down just a little bit. But let me show you, already we've got some grill marks there. So I'm going to turn this 90 degrees. so that we get nice cross-hatching on the first side, which I think of as the presentation side. There we go. We'll leave the steak. It's on a cooler part of the grill, so it should be fine for the time being. I'd like to make a quick sauce for you, with you. This sauce is going to go on this steak, and it's a sauce that they use often in Brazil. It's called chimichurri. And chimichurri is an herb-based sauce. I will tell you about it as we go. I'm going to begin with some shallots that are minced up. And I'll put the minced shallots into a bowl. Careful. And then some garlic as well. And you can think of chimichurri as a vinaigrette. So here's the vinegar. I'm going to season it with some pepper flakes, my particular passion, and plenty of salt. We're going to stir olive oil into that. And this is about 50-50. It's a little more powerful than a regular vinaigrette. This is about 50% vinegar, 50% oil. And that is because there's so much richness inherent in the meat. And then finally, I'm going to add herbs. I have some fresh oregano and lots of chopped parsley. Now this needs to be a fluid sauce so that you can spoon it over your steak. We'll get back to that in just a second. Let's see how our lamb chops are doing. I think it's time to flip them again. We've got some beautiful grill marks there, cross-hatched grill marks. And let's have a look at our steak. We've got some nice marks, so I'm going to turn it from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit on this end of the grill. The lamb chops seem to be doing fine. Back to our chimichurri. There's an addition that I make to this sauce that I like very much, and I'll tell you what it is. I like to take veal stock and reduce it down until it's a glaze, until it has a rich, meaty flavor and a little bit of a gelatinous quality. And I take that veal stock and I add it to this sauce so that it's not just olive oil, vinegar, and herbs, but it has some meatiness to it as well. This is the meat glaze. You can see it here in the pan. And as I stir it in, I'll just make sure that it gets dispersed throughout. The nice thing about adding some hot meat glaze to this is that the heat will bring out the flavor of the herbs and the garlic and the shallots. We've got an opportunity here just to taste this sauce. It should be sharp. Remember that this meat has a tremendous amount of richness to it. That tastes great. Let's have a look at what's going on over here. So I've got some lamb chops. I'm going to give them another turn so that they'll have cross-hatch marks both top and bottom. But what I would love to do is show you this lamb chop in particular, where you can see on the side that there is still a little bit of rare meat towards the middle. There's still a little bit of cooking that needs to happen there, but these are coming along nicely. This is the second side. I'm going to season that with a little bit of salt as well. And let's look in on our steak. Beautiful cross-hatched marks. I'm going to turn that side up just a little bit. I don't hear the same intensity, That may be appropriate because it's a thicker steak, but I want a little bit more juice right here. If you were outside, the way that you can regulate a gas grill, obviously, is turn it up the same way. But if you're dealing with charcoal, sometimes simply fanning the flames, blowing off some of the ash, or even stirring the coals so that the ash falls off will bring new life to the fire. You know, my lamb chops came off the grill already. I have them here, and I think our steak is just about done. Let's talk about determining doneness very, very quickly. I'm going to pull this off, and maybe the safest way with a really thick steak like this is to get a good meat thermometer, a digital meat thermometer, and put it into the thickest part of the meat. Now, all protein responds the same way to temperature. So we want to make sure that we have it where the meat is the thickest. And I'm going to pull this off at about 130 to 135 degrees for a medium rare. If you like it rare, take it off about 128 to 130 degrees. If you look here, I've got this at about 136 degrees. There's another technique that I'll share with you very, very quickly, and I think I may have already, but if you relax your hand and poke yourself right there, you are raw meat. So that's what raw meat feels like. Just touch your thumb to your first finger, it feels rare. To your middle finger, it feels medium. To your ring finger, medium well. And to your little finger, well done. So when I press this, it should feel a little bit like either right around my middle finger, right there. And the temperature is 138, 139. It's coming up just a degree or two because of carryover cooking. I feel pretty good about the temperature of this steak. I think we're ready to take these foods and plate them. I'm going to keep these steaks warm here for just a second. And let's begin with our cowboy steak. I'm going to move it over to the plate. And these few juices that collected, I'm going to add right to the chimichurri. I don't think there's any problem with that. There is a classical garnish for grilled beef, and that is peppery greens. Watercress is maybe the poster child for peppery greens. But if you have a garden and you have nasturtiums growing in your garden, these are in the same family with watercress. And the great thing about nasturtiums is that the blossoms have that same pepperiness. So I'm going to add some of these blossoms as well. Just be careful, wash them well, because sometimes ants like to go inside. And then finally, we'll take our chimichurri and spoon it over the steak. For me, the only other thing that this needs is some of these great grilled potatoes that we made earlier. So I'm going to take them and put them right next to our steak. I'll keep those warm, and we'll move this over. And then let's take a look at our lamb chops. Well, I've got the rest of these vegetables, and I think they would be entirely appropriate with these lamb chops. So let's grab 1, 2, and 3 lamb chops. Those I'll set aside for a little bit later on. And we'll serve these with some vegetables. And just a little bit of this parsley salad is all that this dish needs. So there is 2 grilled meats served side by side with some grilled vegetables. I think this is a great start. If you had the notion to broil these meats, you could do it in your oven. Just set it on broil and it would cook from the top down rather from the bottom up. When we come back, we're going to cook some grilled fish. I've got some nice mahi-mahi here. A firm fish is a great idea because it doesn't flake quite so easily. I'm going to make sure that the grill is hot. Here I've got a grill pan and I've had it over the heat for about 10 minutes. I'm going to turn it up slightly. If you're grilling outside, it's imperative that you get your grill nice and hot, that the bars are clean. So clean it very, very good with a wire brush and then wipe it clean. So whether you're inside or outside, a clean grill is essential. Now, when you take a look at the fish, beyond it being just meaty, I think it's a nice idea that it should be nice and dry. So don't try and take really wet fish and put it onto a grill because that is a recipe for a mess. It will stick and before you know it, you've got trouble. So blot it dry. We've got the pan hot. The fish is dry. Just before it goes into the pan, I usually oil the bars, and don't oil them too soon. If the bars are hot and you put oil on and then you walk away for 5 minutes to go get your fish, when you come back, that oil will already be sticky, and you don't want that at all. You want the oil just to have gone on there. I'm going to take and put just a little bit of oil on this fish as well. We'll just rub it in, and I'm going to make sure that we get oil top and bottom. And then, before it hits the pan, I like to season it with plenty of salt. And this salt acts as a barrier to it sticking to the pan. So don't add the salt too early. Don't let it dissolve. But instead, add it just before it's ready to go into the pan. All right, the nicest part of the fish goes down, pointing towards 10 o'clock. The nicest part of the fish goes down, pointing towards 10 o'clock. And we're going to let that sit in the pan and grill. I'm going to tend to it, but I'm not going to bother it. I'm not going to worry it. Okay? Keep your eye on the smoke coming off of the grill. I think maybe just a few drops of oil would be appropriate here. And we're off. I'm going to make a salsa to go with this mahi-mahi, a nice meaty fish that can take some heat in the pan. And the salsa I'm going to make is a pineapple salsa. I'll quickly rattle off the ingredients as we go. Here are some red onions and some jicama, a little bit of red pepper, some spicy chili. This is Serrano's, just to give it a little bite, and then plenty of pineapple. All right, let's put it all in. Let's pause for just a second and have a quick look at this fish. If it frees itself, you know that you're in great shape. I'm going to put that right back in the pan. We're going to give that a little bit more color, and then I'm actually going to turn it 90 degrees and we'll get the beautiful cross-hatching. At this point, I'm going to turn the temperature down just slightly. I'm seeing a little bit more smoke than I would like here. And you can monitor the progress of the fish. Maybe if I turn this around, it will be easier for you to see. You can monitor the progress of the fish by seeing it turn opaque. As we go, it turns opaque from the bottom towards the top. Let me go ahead and we'll move that 90 degrees. And we'll carry on with the salsa. I need to add some lime juice. And a little bit of salt. We have the chilies in there already. Now, time for this fish to turn. We've got nice grill marks there, and there as well. I'm monitoring the progress of the cooking of this fish, and it's about halfway through from what was the bottom to the middle. So we'll cook it on the second side. In the meantime, the cilantro goes in. And to finish this salsa, we need to add some olive oil and just stir it together. It's a very colorful salsa. Just make sure you have enough lime juice so that it's bright with acidity, because it's going on a piece of fish, and acidity is a really handy attribute. Let's talk about determining doneness on fish. You can do the same thing. You can press it with your hand. You can monitor the progress of the fish's cooking from the side. And if you look at this piece right here, you can see that it's nearly cooked to the center. You'll get a little bit of carryover cooking once this comes out of the pan. I'm going to have a quick peek on the back side. That's beautiful as well. Boy, look at that. I like the looks of those marks even better. So I'm going to turn off the heat. This pan has plenty of heat in it, so it will continue to cook while we finish up cleaning the station and getting our plate to put this together. So there's a beautiful plate. And I'm going to put just a little bit of this salad / salsa on the bottom of the plate. And then we'll take the fish and put that right in. And then finally, just a little bit over the top, I think, is all we need. Now, to go along with this fish, we're going to have a very, very simple dessert. It's going to be a grilled nectarine that I'm going to serve with ice cream. And the beauty of a grilled piece of fruit as dessert in a grilled menu is that, especially when you're outside and the fire is dying down, it goes from very hot to medium hot, and then the coals are dying and very, very soft. You can use that gentle heat to grill something with a lot of sugar, like a peach or a nectarine. I've got a beautiful grilled nectarine right here. What I did is I melted a little bit of butter, put just the same amount of honey, maybe a tablespoon of each, and then I cut this nectarine in half and rolled it in that mixture and put it over the dying embers of the fire. And that gentle heat softened it and caramelized it just so. You can see it here. It's beautiful. And if you give it a little squeeze, you'll see how tender it is. Here's what I'm going to do. In this plate, I'm going to put a very simple fruit sauce. We'll learn about this a little bit later on. And then I'm going to gather up this nectarine and lay it right on top of that sauce. It really is beautiful. Let me set this aside. And I'm going to take some ice cream. This is caramel ice cream, sort of a caramel flavored ice cream. And we'll put a little bit of that right next door. Maybe your favorite spice cookie or a little bit of cake, just like this. And that dessert is ready to join you at the table. This can sit for a long time. It doesn't really matter if it's piping hot when it goes to the table. We've spent a lot of time grilling today. If you've been grilling outside, I just want to warn you that in our next lesson, you're going to have to come back into the kitchen because we're going to make some of the foundational preparations in cooking, stocks and broths.